Hello and welcome to your BTV News Update for the week of March 29th, 2021. First, we have our political commentator Allison Sanel on Georgia, next semester, and the results of the essay elections.
Georgia just passed new voting restrictions in the wake of the 2020 elections. Governor Brian Kemp cited the new laws as, quote, another step towards ensuring our elections are secure, accessible, and fair. This is a bit difficult to accept from a state that's infamous for suppressing voters, especially voters of color. In Binghamton news, good news, the school is planning to go back to full in-person classes in the fall semester. On the subject, Harvey Stanger said, in one of the longest run-on sentences I have ever attempted to read out loud, improving COVID-19 trends and increasing access to vaccines have allowed us to begin making plans to return to a vibrant, bustling campus where the virtual world will be replaced mainly by the face-to-face interactions we've all collectively craved as a university. For us here at BTV News, this means that we most likely will be allowed to film in our studio next year, and you'll no longer have to stare at whatever is on the wall behind me. I'm personally excited to still not get invited to parties, but this time without an excuse. Official essay election results are in. The reps for next year are as follows. President David Hatami, Executive VP Sakeev Chowdhury, VP for Finance Tara Lerman, VP for Student Success Samantha Carroll, VP for Multicultural Affairs Mary Hu, and VP for Programming Lucas Bianculli. The University Council rep race is still awaiting essay certification. Back to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Allison. And now for COVID news, Gavin VanHorn.
Hello, Binghamton. We have some good news for you this week, and we're excited to share it. A Bing U news article written on March 19th by Katie Ellis looks back on the past year of the COVID pandemic. This article was published exactly 1 year after we made the transition to fully remote instruction, and what a year it has been. Ellis described the various challenges that the university was facing last March. No one knew how long the pandemic would last or what would be required to get through it, and it was difficult to adapt to fully online learning for students and faculty. So Binghamton surveyed students and faculty to identify problems and form solutions. Most notably, it was troublesome to grant students access to the necessary technologies. But surprisingly, the university's retention rate for first-year students actually rose from 92% to 93%. Another issue was how to develop a COVID testing program for students in the fall. Campus had no clear guidance from New York State nor SUNY Greater. Moreover, everything moved quickly, so communication with faculty and staff was difficult. The worst impacts of the pandemic were effects on social life and campus traditions. The class of 2020 commencement ceremony, for example, did not occur. Enrollment of international students decreased, which diminished incoming funds as a result. Operational costs remained high, though, due to cleaning, refunds, and testing. Overall, Binghamton's handling of the pandemic is a source of pride for President Stanger, and it should be for many other faculty members, too. Ellis's article suggested the campus will be fully in person next fall, and it concluded with a quote from Vice President Brian Rose encouraging us all to continue being safe and protecting each other. We've come a long way, and despite the progress we've made, the virus is still here. We ought to be wary of it. Regarding this week's statistics, from March 13th to March 25th, Bingham conducted 14,182 on-campus tests with 40 on-campus positives. There were also 15 off-campus positives. The next 2-week cycle begins on March 26th. These numbers are becoming increasingly low. We should all feel safer, so let's keep it up. With each passing day, statewide vaccination rates rise. As of March 24th, about 27% of New Yorkers had received their first vaccine dose, and about 14% had been fully vaccinated. With the vaccine allocation in New York State constantly rising too, we can hope that our vaccination rates explode upwards. In the meantime, continue to be productive, and be sure to tune in next week for more updates. This has been Gavin VanHorn for BTV6 News, providing you with your COVID update. Back to you, Ryan.
Wonderful job, Gavin. And now for the weather, hosted by Sarah O'Shea. Take it away, Sarah.
Hi, it's Sarah, and welcome to the weather. I'll be covering the weather from Monday the 29th to Sunday the 4th. These predictions are made on March 25th. This week is going to be pretty windy, so be careful out there. The temperature is going to be pretty sporadic, so make sure that you check the weather before you leave your house every day. The windiest day of the week will probably be Monday. There will be winds from 15 to 25 miles per hour, and it'll be colder than usual with a high of 43 degrees. On Tuesday, there will be winds from 10 to 15 miles per hour and a high of 57 degrees. On Wednesday, it'll be just as windy with a high of 62 degrees. The wind continues on Thursday. There's a 50% chance of rain in the morning and a high of 41 degrees. Our coldest day of the week could be on Friday with more winds and a high of 36 degrees. Good Friday is this Friday. If you live in the city of Binghamton, then this affects your garbage collection. For this week only, your trash will be collected the day before it usually is. If it's normally collected on Wednesday morning, it'll be collected on Tuesday morning instead. On Saturday, it gets warmer with a high of 48 degrees. And it would be a nice day on Sunday if it weren't for those persistent winds, since Sunday has a high of 56 degrees. And now for our Doppler radar. So as you can see on our Doppler radar, it'll be mostly clear this week from Monday through Wednesday. There's that rain that's going to come on Thursday morning. And then after that, it should be nice and clear and also windy. And that's the weather. And now back to you, Ryan.
Excellent work, Sarah. And now for the entertainment editorial. Today, Cailan Dougall will be giving his take on episode 2 of Marvel's Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney+.
Hey Binghamton. On March 26th, the second episode of Marvel Studios' The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, The Star-Spangled Man, was released on Disney+. This is the follow-up to the first episode, New World Order. There's a lot to talk about with this new episode, so let's jump into it. Alright everyone, well let's jump into the second episode of Marvel Studios' The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's a fair amount to talk about with this episode, so we'll break it down into pieces and we'll go through it as quickly and nicely as we can. So this episode begins with John Walker, aka US Agent, trying to embody Captain America as he's been selected to become the new Captain America. So it turns out that that football game that I believed I was seeing in the footage was actually just footage of John at his high school. So that was a bit of a difference, but, you know, not too jarring for the episode. So, interestingly, we get some background on John Walker in this episode, you know, because during this interview, they're talking about his resume, how he's the first American in U.S. history to get 3 medals of honor, and how he was involved in this college study where it was determined that he had extreme physical prowess. But I need to make a point here about Captain America, the First Avenger, and Dr. Erskine, because as anyone who's seen that movie will recall, Steve Rogers wasn't given the super soldier serum because he was a good soldier. He was given it because he was a good person. And it seems like, you know, that's been now refuted for John Walker. He's been given it because he's the model, you know, American soldier, you know, 3 medals of honor. He's our guy. He's a patriot. And that's not what Steve Rogers stood for. And that's an issue for a lot of people in this episode, including Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, and I'll get into that in just a second. John, during this interview, name drops Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, so we have some OG Avenger references right there. Nice little callback and nice little thing to put in the episode. It seems like John is having issues with the Captain America mantle similarly to Sam Wilson. It doesn't seem like he, you know, is fully ready to take it up. It seems like it's been more forced on him. And also, he doesn't know if he can live up to the legacy of Steve Rogers and, you know, the mantle of Captain America. And that's really interesting to see because, you know, at the end of the last episode, he was introduced to us as Captain America and he was smiling and all that. So it'll be interesting to see how, you know, this sort of personality plays out and maybe a character arc for John Walker throughout this show. Now, Bucky and Sam, compared to the last episode, have a lot of interaction in this episode. In fact, they're basically interacting the entire time. Bucky is not happy with Sam for having given away the shield to the museum. He believes that, you know, Steve picked Sam for a reason and that Sam should have kept the shield and carried on the legacy. Sam sees differently, clearly, because that's what he did in the first episode. You know, he gave away the shield. Sam and Bucky have a pretty troubled relationship. They don't get along too well. They have a lot of fighting in this episode. It doesn't seem like they're truly ready to be a team, despite the fact that they are kind of a team. So we'll have to see how their relationship impacts their ability to function together and fight off the bad guys. We'll see how Marvel plays that out. Neither of them likes John Walker whatsoever, and they both have valid reasons to dislike John Walker. You know, Bucky is not happy with him because he's taking up the legacy of his best friend, and it's, you know, not the person who Bucky wanted to carry the shield. And Sam is naturally unhappy because Steve passed the shield on to him, and now this white dude who never met Steve has it. And Sam just doesn't want anything to do with this guy. They have a lot of conflict throughout this episode, despite a few reasonable moments. They don't want to work with him, and they're kind of just, Sam and Bucky are kind of just doing their own thing. We'll see how that plays out. I think it's very likely that they'll meet John Walker again during the series, but that remains yet to be seen. Bucky and Sam have their first encounter with the villainous Flag Smashers during this episode. It doesn't go very well. They basically get their asses handed to them, and even with help from John and another guy named Lamar Hoskins, who's apparently also known as Battlestar, they still get their asses kicked, to put it politely. The fight doesn't end very well. They're unable to catch the Flag Smashers, and they sort of have to go back to square one, unfortunately. During this episode, we also learn about a black super soldier named Isaiah, who had a fight with Bucky decades before the start of this show and apparently ended up in jail. This was not something Bucky told Steve about because, according to Bucky, Isaiah had already been through enough already. It remains yet to be seen if Isaiah will resurface during this series. I think it's likely that he will, because Marvel doesn't just introduce characters and then cast them aside, at least not most of the time. So I strongly suspect we'll see Isaiah again. Sharon Carter gets name dropped in this episode, which is interesting for a few reasons. Number one, she's supposed to appear in this series. Number two, it's been a few years since her last appearance. She was in Captain America: The Winter Soldier in 2014, and then Captain America: Civil War in 2016. So it remains to be seen when Sharon will appear in this series. We've seen from the footage on Marvel's social media that she does have interactions with Sam and Bucky. That'll be interesting, considering that apparently Sharon was deemed an enemy of the state, according to Sam, after something involving stealing Cap's shield. So we haven't seen her yet, but it's very likely that we'll see her in the next episode or two. Also, on a small note, we've now learned the leader of the Flag Smashers is a girl named Carly Morgenthau. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. We get a lot more footage of the Flag Smashers in this episode, and we do have a decent idea of their motivations, but we're not entirely sure how they're going to execute those motivations and, you know, what they're going to do throughout the series. So, as before, that's another thing we'll just have to see as to how it plays out. I am not entirely sure right now if the Flag Smashers are the big bad villain of this show, which takes me to my very next point, which is that this episode concludes with an appearance from Daniel Bruhl Zemo. Sam and Bucky are going to him to possibly gain some insights and some information about the Flag Smashers, considering how much information Daniel Bruhl was able to access, or, well, Zemo was able to access during Captain America: Civil War. So it's really nice to see this character again. Zemo was a very interesting villain for Captain America: Civil War because he essentially won without throwing a punch. His goal was to tear the Avengers apart, and he achieved that goal. I also think we'll be seeing Zemo in more comic-oriented costume with this purple mask that we've seen him with in the TV spots and the social media footage. So it'll be nice to see Zemo kind of, you know, be a bit of a villain again, or maybe not be a villain. You know, I'm not sure how they'll play Zemo out in this series. I'm sure he will have some villainous component, but it's possible that he may go on sort of an arc on his own. That is, you know, all I have to talk about for the second episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier right now. Be sure to tune in soon again for more updates, because I will definitely be back with some more commentary. Have a great day or night whenever it is that you end up watching this, and I will turn it back to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Cailan. And with that, we finish your news update for the week of March 29th, 2021. Please join us again next week for more updates. Until next time, have a wonderful week.